Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of What's Happening. I'm George Binns, and I'm here with my co-host, Gail Burke. And we have as our guest tonight the President of the City Council of the City of Beverly, Paul Guanci. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you, George.
Welcome.
Thank you, Gail.
And this is about 3 to 4 days after you passed the city budget, right?
Correct.
And it came in at 3.94% bigger than last year. Does that mean we're going to see a 3.94% tax raise?
No, it's always the levy always goes up. Well, you can go up 2.5%, and historically, this administration, the previous administration, and even the Green administration went up that 2.5% that you can go up by law. That other 1 and 1.4% is any new growth that we get here in the city or any additional state aid that we get.
Could you explain how that new growth works?
New growth is all the building permits, the new taxes you get from them. And with all the building going on in Beverly right now, our new growth is over $1 million this year.
Well, we've got a budget that's 123 million and change. And 1 million is not a big swinger in that.
You know, it's really not, but it picks up a few other things.
Oh, yeah, it's nice to have, but we don't want to turn it down.
It's nice to have, of course. Yeah. I mean, other than property tax, the next biggest revenue source is state aid, and that's not even to the level that it was in 2003 now.
No, that keeps getting cut too, yeah. And, well, the state budget has been cut every year. They've had it. That's another joke, but we'll save that for a different show.
All right.
Well,
one last thing. During the discussion on the budget, there were some people who wanted to add money to the school budget, and Councilor Latter raised the question of have to change the charter. What was that about?
You wouldn't have to. The city council cannot add to the budget. We can subtract to the budget, but there's a provision in the charter that allows the school. The school committee is supposed to present to the mayor a budget that they feel is what they need to provide all the programs and services that they do every year. The problem with this, what happened is back when revenue got, back in 2003 when things went tough and we had state aid got cut, the mayor and the superintendent began working together, and it happened that the mayor would give the superintendent and the school committee a number and say, this is what you get and this is what you have to work with. So in a way, it took away a little of the power of the school committee because they weren't presenting a budget of what they really wanted. Now that finances are a little better here in the city, I think you'll see in the future that the school committee and the mayor are going to have a little more back and forth about actually what they feel that they need. This year, part of the school committee came forward and said that they wanted an extra $600,000 to help with class sizes and full-day kindergarten. And Mayor Cahill almost toed the line and said no, but he did give them a couple $100,000 extra. The charter would have to change in a way, and a charter change means the vote goes out to the public, that it would give the city council more power over the city's finances. Right now, we have a strong mayor form of government and a weak city council. Before, we had a strong board of aldermen and a weak mayor back in the 90s. And then when the charter passed in the late 90s, we went to a strong mayor.
but when the mayor says, okay, we're going to give you X amount of dollars, can he do that without the okay of the city council?
No, it all has to come before us. We're the ones that ultimately approve the budget.
Okay. And
But
also, do you have any control out of how much or how the money is spent by the school committee?
No.
So
The school
you just
committee
give
gets their
them,
line item, and
Yeah.
what's happened the past few years is we've gotten a line-by-line itemized budget from the school committee. Before, we used to just see that big number, but now we see where all the money's going.
but you can't cut.
No,
Line item.
we can't
Yeah.
do anything with the school department. This year, I know, if you remember last year's budget process, the school committee was looking for a little extra money, and the council went through the exercise of cutting out some money and asking the mayor to send it over to the school department. In this year, there was a will of some councils to do that also, but the mayor had said, any money that you cut out of the budget this year, I'll just reduce the revenues. and he wasn't going to give the school committee any more money this year.
Okay, so when they come before you and they say, well, okay, we needed to make class sizes smaller, does anybody ever question the average class size?
Well, I
or
think-
do you ask for data on which schools have which classes and that sort of, does anybody go into it, or do they just
No.
accept what the school
No,
committee
when
says?
we go through every department comes in and goes through their budget with the city council, and the school department does also. And Dr. Hersey either presents a slide presentation or gives us a handout that shows us where the larger classes are. Now, this year, he said that there was enough money in his budget to address the larger class sizes. There's a large 4th and 5th grade class at Cove, and there's a large 4th grade class at Hannah, and a large 5th grade class at North Beverly,
What does he consider large?
over 25. So we're working at K through 2 is 22 and under, and 3 through 5 is under 25.
Okay.
But years ago, when things were tough, the target number was 30 in grades 3 to 5.
I know.
Yeah.
Why has it come down? More money? Because we have more money to give
Yeah,
them?
we have a little more money. Studies show that smaller class sizes help children. I know this year my daughter was in a large class, and she's a middle-of-the-road child. Good kid, great personality, but she sometimes gets a little overwhelmed with her work, and she's not on an IEP, so she's not getting individualized attention, and she's not one of the bright kids that really don't need any help. She's one of those middle kids that kind of falls through the cracks. So a smaller class sizes help somebody like that. And we had many parents come before us and attest to that.
Well, I think most parents want smaller class sizes.
Of course we do.
I'm not so sure there's really evidence to show that the smaller class sizes are, make for a better education.
We had a teacher, she doesn't teach in Beverly, her name is Julie Schneider, and she lives up in Centerville. And she came in with charts and graphs and talked about how class sizes affect the kids that are on IEPs. It didn't say anything about the regular student population. She was pointing out the fact that the bigger the classes are, the kids on IEPs can't keep up.
Well, these are the special needs kids.
Right.
That's a whole different ballgame.
Well, years ago, weren't integrated into the classroom the
right.
way they are today. And that, that puts added stress on the teachers, too.
Well, they also have added people in the classroom
do.
to help them,
Well,
which
that's
they
the whole
didn't have.
idea. The teachers are now becoming more of managers
Yeah,
of a situation
rather than teachers.
because of all the IEPs. And one of the downsides of that is a lot of parents think, well, if I get my kid an IEP,
Yep.
they're going to have extra help. And that just adds to the burden of the teacher and the whole system.
Yeah, the whole thing needs to be looked at. I mean, now here in Beverly, we have, I think it's almost 2 out of 5 students is on some kind of IEP.
It's
Yeah.
throughout the country, it's
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
And it's a shame, because who decides what a special needs child is?
Well,
And,
that's a moving target, too.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but anyway.
but I'm always concerned when I read in the paper that a parent says, well, we've always had level funding for the schools, and we need more money for them.
Yeah, we've never had level funding
No,
for the schools.
exactly. I
The school
understand
budget
that.
has always gone up.
Yeah.
And this goes back to Mayor Scanlon. When it was decided that we were going to try and build a new high school and build a new middle school without a debt exclusion override, Mayor Scanlon and the finance director, John Dunn, at the time said, this is what we have to do. The school budget cannot grow any more than 3 to 4% each year.
Yeah.
And that's how the line has been towed all these years.
Yeah,
I think part of the problem with the analysis, that the only number that you can really pin down is teacher to pupil ratio. So everything is geared to that number. And they try to keep throwing money to cut that number down. And there are lots of other things that I would like to see done in the school system that don't affect the number of pupils to teacher. And this sort of gets ignored. And I think they get a focus on one thing, and it just keeps going on and on and on, and it doesn't really get you to a solution.
Well, it gets to the point, there's a lot of things in the country that are unsustainable, but it's almost like that school budget is unsustainable every year.
well,
Yeah.
all we ever hear is, we need more money for schools, we need more money for schools. Well, is the education getting any better? I haven't seen any improvement. But anyway, to get off the schools and get back to city stuff.
In my house, we've had a very good experience at the Beverly Public
Good.
Schools.
Yeah.
That's good.
High school, and my older daughter went to St. Mary's K through 8. Had a little bit of a blip when she got to 9th grade, but her 10, 11, 12 was great. And we've had a great experience at Cove, and even for the condition of Briscoe, my son just finished 6th grade. He had a very good year.
Good. I wanted to get into the mayor joining this environmental initiative. He's now part of the Mayor's National Climate Action Agenda. What does that mean?
We're going to find out pretty soon because we just got a heads up that obviously the mayor came before us at our last city council meeting and let us know that he had joined, and now we're eligible for a grant. So we have to set up a special meeting, and I think we'll probably meet in July and set a public hearing, and then we'll accept the grant, and we'll find out next week
Who
how much it
finances
is.
the grant?
Is
It's
it a
got to be
federal
some kind
grant?
of state agency, state
not-
or
it's
federal
not the-
agency,
And what is the grant for?
to help with clean energy initiatives. That's all I have for you now.
Okay,
Next
All right.
week I'll know more.
yes. You're going to have a public hearing on this one?
When we accept a grant, we don't have to, but if it's something, because I mean, we never say no to free money,
Yeah.
but I know we have to have a public hearing to
Yeah, but
fund
there's
it.
always a string on the free money.
The
Yes,
free
there
money
are.
is never free, Paul. You know
I
that.
don't know, you know what, we get a lot of money in for FEMA,
Yeah.
in the fire department and everything that really helps out those budgets. But this one, anything that comes from the federal government, you have to question,
Well, one of the-
regardless of who's
Oh,
president.
absolutely.
One of the things that bothers me about this Paris Accord is that there is a commitment of $100 billion a year for at least 3 years, and then there is an understanding that that number is just the floor and it's going to grow. And this is one of the reasons Trump bailed out of the Paris Accord, because the previous administration already kicked in $100 billion into this thing. So if the United States is out of it at the national level and the cities and towns and states are getting in, what's our share of that $100 billion? And does that kind of money come out of the cities?
I would hope that it doesn't, and I don't think that it would. I mean, we do have a number of, unfunded mandates that we have every year that we
Oh,
have
yeah.
to either you figure it out or you can't. But when you're talking that kind of money, $100 billion, with the financial condition of the country, I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
you can't blame the president for backing out of
No,
it.
absolutely not.
And
Why
if
We
should-
all
why
care
are we-
about the environment.
Yeah,
Of
but
course.
What are we committing ourselves
Yeah.
to? I
And
think
it's-
that's the big question,
it's a-
because you get into this Paris Accord, and it's softer than a boiled grape.
Yeah,
It's a bunch of nice to-dos.
yeah.
And we could have a whole show on that one.
I always
Yeah.
like your analogies, George.
Well, it's
I
a
never heard that
matter
one,
of
softer than a boiled grape.
Oh, yeah.
it's a matter of, and people do this constantly, and of course the press helps it right along, as well as the liberals, progressives, whatever you want to call them. The difference between the environmental issues as pollution and climate change, and they mesh them all together. Like if we stop driving our cars, there's going to be no more pollution, no more climate change, which is ridiculous. But that's what it's geared to. And
Well, I think this is one of the problems that we get into when you start into the climate change, you get into the sanctuary cities.
Yep.
We're going to get into it with Councilor Rand is thinking about this ban the plastic bags routine.
yeah.
I think all of these things start out as, well, that would be a good idea, until you find out, what are we really doing?
Yeah, what's it going to cost, and how many people is it going to affect?
Well, you're a businessman. You use
I do.
plastics.
I don't use. I use very, very few plastic bags. But I know that I said in the paper was that, you just can't do this. You have to hear from people that might be against it or don't
Yep.
understand it.
Yep.
You really have to be careful with people's livelihoods,
Well, we had a discussion
especially the
earlier.
self-employed.
And we had a discussion earlier. out in the other room. And the younger people, especially, oh yeah, we have to ban these plastic bags. And I said, do you have your own business? No. I said, you realize what it could cost, like these mom and pop stores? They use a lot of plastic to bag groceries. You want your grocery bill to go up? Do you want to go into these stores and pay more money? Well, no. But these things are never thought out. Like George says, oh, it sounds like a good idea, let's do it.
Right.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the things that I think needs to have a better discussion, and I'm looking forward to having an open meeting on this thing to get the issues on the table and get people thinking about it. There's an interesting article that showed up from the BBC that England is all of a sudden realizing that, oh, we banned plastic bags everywhere. Now we're finding out what the problems are. And I think one of the things they pointed out in there is that they want to put a 5 penny charge on a plastic bag. And they find out that who cares about 5 cents? It's a small number. And nobody is going to do anything based on 5 cents. And I think this is the whole problem with recycling, that, yeah, it's a nickel if you throw a bottle away. Well, try to return that bottle. You can't just take it back to any old store. It's got to go back to the store you bought it from. And you put all these provisos in there, and pretty soon that what sounded like a good idea, there's no incentive to do it. And I can remember, this is dating myself again, when I was a kid, Saturday mornings was scour the neighborhood to get soda bottles. You got 2 cents a piece for one of those when you turn them into any store.
Any store.
And a soda was a nickel. So that's a 40% incentive to return that bottle. And still, I never missed a movie on Saturday afternoon because I got my 6 bottles. And once in a while, I'd even get a full quart bottle, and that's a nickel, and that's the candy bar. And this wasn't that difficult. So I think the idea that some people have about how they're going to make changes, they haven't thought them through. I think they need to be discussed in an open session.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask
And
you,
you just brought up a good point about, the mom and pop stores and the business owners and things like that. It's getting to the point where you can only pass on so much of your
expenses.
added expenses
Yeah.
to your consumers before you outprice yourself.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they're going to close. Nobody's going to go there anymore.
Well, as a small business owner who's seen the last 8 or 10 years get extremely tough, and it's not just me, it's dozens here in the city of Beverly because of government regulations and insurances and things that you have to do.
Yeah.
It's funny, I always use this example as rubber and plastic gloves. In the food service industry, you need them all the
You
time.
use them
Yeah.
all the time in your business.
And I mean, I remember, and we do, and it bothers me when I go to other businesses and I see that they're not wearing gloves. And it bothers my employees too, because we toe the line and we work with the Board of Health to do everything that we're supposed to do. And, 30 years ago, there was none of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we spend in my little spot, I'm up to about $3,500 a year in plastic gloves.
Oh, sure.
How much of that can you pass on to the
Yeah.
consumer?
I know.
Well, the
Yeah.
other thing that shows up is we're talking about revitalizing the center of town. Okay. And there's a big push to get condos, apartments, affordable housing within walking range of the railroad station. Nice. Where's the nearest market? Bell Market isn't there anymore.
No.
It disappeared and it never came back. I think one company tried to revitalize
Yeah.
it. Didn't happen. How are we going to have a revitalized downtown if you have to schlep all the way out to North Beverly or to the Cummings Center to get your groceries, and you're going to bring back a week's worth of groceries? That's going to be a lot of camp.
Years ago, there was, when this first whole transit-oriented development came to the table back in the early 2000s, I mean, now I'm dating myself.
Yeah.
There was a developer that wanted to buy Thomas Ford. Thomas Ford was going to move up to the highway, now it's Kelly Ford, which he's trying to do anyway now.
Yeah.
And, use one half of the parking lot for a Trader Joe's, and the other half of the showroom for a Trader Joe's, and a parking lot for the other, for their parking. It never came to fruition. There was talk about a land swap, so it just never happened. But it's all about how are you going to, for somebody to open up a grocery store downtown, it would be a small independent businessman. And as much as it's funny, the planning director, Aaron Clausen, says that, well, there feels like there's an entrepreneurial spirit here in the city of Beverly. I see the opposite. I don't see people that want to go out and take a shot and open up their own business and lay their own money on the line for a project that may not succeed.
Well, one of the problems,
like a downtown market.
one of the problems I find going downtown, the traffic. And now they have these, what do they call them, bump outs
Yeah.
for bicycle riders.
Right.
And driving, I mean, it's very easy to hit one.
Yeah, it's very tough to, now that they have the bump
makes it
outs
worse.
downtown, it's tough to drive downtown.
And even
it
the
does
bicycle
reduce
riders.
the speed, and it makes things a little safer for pedestrians.
Yeah, one of the things that we're going to get into a discussion with Mr. Clausen one of these days is, yeah, we're always talking about traffic calming. At what point do you calm the traffic down so much you cause a traffic jam? There's got to be some sort of balance in there as to streets are meant to move traffic along. You can't keep slowing it down to make the natives comfortable. And on the Traffic Commission, we get this all the time, that, oh, the cars are going through the neighborhood too fast, you got to slow them down. Well, you're on a main route. That's the way the cars have to go to get to someplace. So there's got to be that balance, and I don't see that.
I think that, I mean, a good test will be when the Rantoul Street project is done, the 1A project,
Yeah.
to see how the traffic flow is after that is done. I know we've added some lights, but you know that there was rumblings years ago that Rantoul Street was going to go south and Cabot Street was going to go north one way. It wouldn't surprise me if that came before the mayor's office and he brought it before the city council sometime in the future. I would hope not. I think that would hurt businesses on both streets, but
No, that was a running joke for a long time, that every year, every 5 years, I think you have to have a new planning document put
Yeah.
together. And every time it came out, we came out with exactly that. Make a big loop
Yeah.
around the center of town. And you start to ask the question, well, if it's such a good idea on paper, why hasn't it happened? And
lot of
again, we
things
get
are
back
good
to
on paper,
the
right?
real issue of
Well, it's not
what's
thought
really
out.
going to do.
yeah.
And I think, I get the impression, and I think others have it as well, that these calming ideas and these complete streets, they call it now, are more to get cars off the road than to actually make the traffic flow easier, so that we have more people walking and bicycles and all of that stuff. And
Conceptually, it's very nice.
exactly.
In reality, though,
it
it's
doesn't
a tough
work.
one. People are always going to have
They want their cars.
cars.
Absolutely.
And I mean, you know, the numbers will show that, well, if you build transit-oriented development, chances are that a young couple's going to move in and they're not going to have one, they're only going to have one car. I don't know about that.
I don't know any young couples that have just
I
one
was a young
car.
couple once, and I know that
In my day,
I was
they
a young
did.
couple twice, and I've had 2 cars in my house. So,
Yeah.
And then when you have children,
right.
more cars.
More people are driving. Former city council president said, Bruce Nadella said when we were talking about the Whole Foods project and the traffic and everything, he said that, you know what, there's more people driving. There's not 1 or 2 cars in a household anymore. There's 3 or 4 because of the kids.
That's right.
Traffic is a way of life. You just have to get used to it.
And now they have those.
It's frustrating. I mean, he
those,
was very eloquent, and
Yeah.
I think the world of Bruce, but, you know, he was very as a matter of fact.
Well, those rotaries up in that area, you know, once you get used to them, okay. But driving them at night, let me tell you, I don't care what they say. They're not easy to maneuver.
No, they need to be a little better lit too at night.
And you
but
get it in the wrong lane, and you suddenly realize it, you better stay in that lane because you're never going to get over there.
no, they've worked a lot better than, I mean, I was a naysayer, and they've worked a lot better than I thought that they would. But we don't have a shopping plaza there yet.
It's
so.
interesting when
yeah.
you're following some cars going into that rotary.
They
and
don't know where to go.
the white lines on the road tell you what to do, but people trying
People
to
don't pay attention.
What's
And you-
going on with Whole Foods, by the way?
There was a big article in the Salem News.
Yeah.
They have some
Yeah.
delays, and
They found out they couldn't put the drainage pipe
Right.
where they wanted to put it.
But they're having trouble with the stores. They're closing some
right,
stores.
they are, but they're committed. Somebody said to me that they're committed to making it work here in Beverly. But
Yeah.
that drainage pipe issue up there has been a problem for years.
Yeah,
The other question I had, and we've only got a few minutes, but
How does time go so fast?
because you talk fast.
we all
Oh.
talk a lot. But this is very important. The Elliott Landing condos,
Right?
they do not have affordable housing. We brought this up once before on our show.
Yeah,
Right.
we had Jason Silva on.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And because they paid money
Right.
to not have it, that seems kind of
It's all part
not
of
too
the,
kosher.
Right, well, it's all part of the affordable housing ordinance that the planning department and the city council, the planning board recommended and the city council passed. It allows developers to either pay into that affordable housing trust, or it also allows them to build their affordable housing not on the site.
Yeah,
So I think what you'll see is, I'm not sure whether Windover has affordable housing at 131 Rantoul Street, the one that they just built by the post office, which is a beautiful,
I
a
think
beautiful
they
building.
do.
yeah. There was some.
I know one of their buildings does.
Okay, so maybe they do, but I think that a lot of their affordable housing, they're going to put on that 490, I think it's 490 Rantoul Street, the old Friendly site.
Yeah,
They seem to be used, they don't seem to be using the same materials at that site. That's what I've heard.
Okay.
the problem I think that gets to be ignored is when you say the housing is affordable, you're meeting the 40B requirements.
Right.
Right.
We don't want to go below that 10%, and we're like 12 now.
We're
Yeah.
12.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there aren't too many people that can afford
Affordable.
$1,800 a month as rent. And I've started to notice in the police blotters, they're finding an awful lot of homeless camps that they're having to break up. So I think there's other pieces of this problem
We're going to have to stop here, George.
that need to be discussed at another
Finish your
time.
Right.
sentence. You'll have to come back.
No, I would love to, because there's
all
a
right.
lot of things
There's a
that,
lot of-
I mean,
yeah.
I think the key word is, there's a lot of things that are unsustainable.
Yeah,
And it's not just in the city, it's in the
right.
state, it's
Yeah,
everywhere. It's
it
very
is.
frustrating.
and the problems don't go away because they're not sustainable.
No.
Thank you very much for
Thank you.
coming on our show. We welcome you back at any time. Thank you very much for watching the show. If you will put up on the screen our email address, I wish that some people, and they have, commented on the show. You can critique us, offer comments, whatever. We appreciate it. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
And a happy 4th of July.
Happy
'cause it's
4th of
next week.
July. That's right. Good night.
Okay.